story is famous. A king named Minos, a monstrous creature, half man, half bull, a vast underground labyrinth so complex that no one who entered could escape, and a hero, Theseus, who defeated the beast using nothing but courage and a thread. For centuries, this tale has been told as pure mythology. But what if it wasn't entirely invented? What if the labyrinth was inspired by a real palace, one so enormous and confusing that visitors genuinely felt lost inside it? What if the Minotaur was a distorted memory of real religious rituals involving bulls? And what if behind the myth stood one of the most sophisticated civilizations of the Bronze Age? To answer that, we must travel back nearly 4,000 years to the island of Crete, home of the mysterious Minoans. The Minoan civilization emerged around 2000 BC during the Bronze Age. At this time, much of Europe was still organized in small tribal communities. But on Crete, something different was happening. The island sits at a strategic crossroads between Egypt, Anatolia, the Levant, and mainland Greece. This location allowed the Minoans to become master seafarers and traders. Archaeological evidence shows they exported olive oil, wine, pottery, saffron, textiles, and finely crafted metal goods. In return, they imported ivory, gold, copper, and artistic influences from Egypt and the Near East. Unlike later Greek cities, early Minoan settlements show little evidence of massive defensive walls. This has led many historians to describe them as a thalassocracy, a sea-based power that relied on naval dominance. Their ships controlled trade routes across the Aegean Sea. Their wealth grew, and with wealth came monumental architecture. The most famous Minoan site is the enormous complex at the Palace of Knossos. It was excavated in 1900 by British archaeologist Arthur Evans. What he uncovered changed our understanding of early European history. Knossos was not just a royal residence. It functioned as an administrative center, a religious hub, a storage facility, and possibly even a ceremonial gathering place. The structure covered several acres. It contained hundreds of interconnected rooms arranged around a central courtyard. There were multiple floors connected by grand staircases. There were narrow corridors that suddenly opened into wide chambers. There were storage rooms lined with enormous clay jars, called pithoi, used to store oil, grain, and wine. Light wells were built into the structure to bring sunlight into interior spaces. Advanced plumbing systems carried fresh water in and wastewater out. To someone unfamiliar with its layout, the palace would have felt disorienting. Rooms led into other rooms without obvious patterns. Passages twisted and turned. There was no single clear path. Now imagine visiting this place centuries later, after it had partially collapsed and fallen into ruin. Imagine hearing stories of a powerful king who once ruled there. It's not difficult to see how such a structure could become remembered as a labyrinth. One of the most striking aspects of Minoan culture is their obsession with bulls. Frescoes discovered at Knossos depict a dramatic activity known as bull leaping. In these scenes, young men and women grasp the horns of a charging bull, vault over its back, and land behind it. This was likely a ritual performance tied to religious belief. Bulls symbolize strength, vitality, fertility, and divine power. Horns of consecration, large stylized bull horns made of stone, were placed prominently on palace rooftops. Bull imagery appears in pottery, seals, sculptures, and ceremonial objects. To later mainland Greeks, who eventually conquered Crete, these rituals may have seemed strange or even dangerous. Over generations, stories can transform. Ritual becomes horror. Symbol becomes monster. The sacred bull merges with human imagination. And so perhaps the Minotaur was born, not as a literal beast, but as a mythologized memory of powerful bull-centered ceremonies. There is another intriguing possibility. Some scholars believe the word labyrinth may derive from the term labyrinth, which refers to a double-headed axe frequently found in Minoan religious contexts. If this interpretation is correct, the original meaning of labyrinth may have been something like the house of the double axe. In other words, not a maze, but a sacred palace complex. Over time, language evolved. The original religious meaning may have been forgotten. The word remained, but its meaning shifted. and the palace became a maze in the imagination of storytellers. Beyond myth, the Minoans were remarkably advanced. Their cities featured paved roads and sophisticated drainage systems. Some buildings included what appeared to be early flushing toilets. Their art was vibrant and dynamic. Unlike the rigid and militaristic style of later Mycenaean Greece, Minoan art emphasizes nature. Frescoes show dolphins swimming through blue water. They show lilies, birds, and marine life. Human figures are portrayed in motion, often participating in ceremonies. Women appear frequently and prominently in religious scenes. Some scholars believe women may have held significant social or spiritual authority. The Minoans also developed a writing system known as linear A. To this day, it remains undeciphered. We can read the symbols, but we do not understand the language. This mystery only deepens the aura surrounding their civilization. Around 1600 BC, a massive volcanic eruption occurred on the nearby island of Santorini, known in antiquity as Thera. It was one of the most powerful eruptions in recorded geological history. The explosion sent ash high into the atmosphere. It triggered earthquakes. It generated enormous tsunamis that slammed into the northern coast of Crete. Ports were damaged, ships were destroyed, trade networks were disrupted. Although the Minoan civilization did not collapse immediately, it was severely weakened. Around 1450 BC, mainland Greek warriors, the Mycenaeans, appear to have taken control of Crete. Palaces were destroyed or repurposed. Linear A was replaced with linear B, an early form of Greek writing. Gradually, the Minoan identity faded. Their cities declined. Their culture merged with that of their conquerors. And over the centuries, history blurred into legend. Imagine Greek poets centuries later telling stories around a fire. They speak of an ancient island kingdom. They speak of a mighty ruler named Minos. They describe a vast palace no one could navigate. They remember strange rituals with bulls. Details shift. Stories evolve. The king becomes a tyrant. The bull becomes a monster. The palace becomes a labyrinth. And myth is born from memory. The Minotaur may never have existed, but the civilization that inspired the story certainly did. Today, visitors walk through the ruins of Knossos under the bright Cretan sun. They see stone walls and reconstructed columns, but beneath those stones lies something far more powerful, the transformation of history into legend. And perhaps that is the greatest mystery of all.